Welcome to Kiwi Bred, I'm Aidan Rodley. We begin this week with the sombre news that Richhill stud stallion Pentyre has died aged 26. The Be My Guest stallion was a Group 1 winner of the Irish Champions Stakes and the King George VI and Queen Elizabeth Stakes at 3, both times attaining an elite time form rating of 132. When Richhill's studmaster John Thompson began thinking about a foundation stallion, he turned to Michael Otto, the New Zealand representative for Shad-Eye, and to Thompson's delight he was able to secure Pentyre, who has gone on to sire 48 stakes winners, among those 16 Group 1 winners. Among them a 2-time New Zealand Horse of the Year Excellent, a 4-time Group 1 winner, 10-time Group 1 winner Mufasa, also a dual New Zealand Horse of the Year, and 2015 Melbourne Cup winner Prince of Penzance. Pentyre was such a versatile sire that has stopped won Group 1 races from 1200 metres, recurring in the railway, through to 3200 metres on 4 separate occasions. Initially, Pentyre shuttled to Japan and once to Germany before taking up full-time residence at Richhill Stud, where he was still in active stud duties and in good health. He underwent surgery on Monday and vets found he had a tumour that his intestine had wrapped around. At the time of his death, he was New Zealand's leading active sire of Group 1 winners. We had trackside cameras on Pentyre just 3 weeks ago in the week leading up to the Melbourne Cup, and he was his typical perky self. Our thoughts are with all of those connected with Pentyre, especially with John and Colleen Thompson and the staff at Richhill Stud, as Kiwi Bred salutes an iconic New Zealand stallion.
There's always a spare job at the sales if you need it, Aidan.
I'm not up to your level, Janine.
So Janine, how big's Phoenix Park?
It's only 50 acres, but it's on really versatile sandy loam in the Kaipaki, Cambridge area. We have probably 38 horses on at the moment, which is a good average number, carry about 40 head of cattle. Like in this block here, there's 16 paddocks this size, so they're 140 by 70 metres. Over the hedge over there we have they're 70 by 30, and I bought specifically a smaller block for covers on horses first time, and they're 30 by 40. I mean, I bought everything to be practical. I mean, 8 metre wide laneways through the stable area as well. I mean, with you know, with the barn on 2 sides, people have said, oh, why haven't you put a roof on? And I go, well, we probably actually don't need it. Like, I never put concrete in the stable floors for drainage and the practicality of it.
And at the moment, obviously, you've had a pretty wet winter, but your place is looking great.
Yeah, well, thank you, you know, and I think that's also due to sandy loam, but I think it's the first year I've ever actually had mud. So this was all a maize block originally. The whole farm actually was.
Yep.
And that's, so I put it in, I've built it how I've wanted it. Yeah, it works and it's home.
Yeah, so where were you before here?
I was over on Newells Road over in Tamaheri, had a block of land in there, and what happened was a subdivision came through. Funnily enough, it was the first property that I ever walked onto. I think with the trees, the hedges, and you know, just I like the feel out of it.
How do you sort of find that the horses do here?
I find they develop a lot of bone. I'm a great feeder of horses as well. I think that if you want to grow them,
yeah,
you have to feed them. Yeah. And I've never been short of actually keeping them, you know, my sort of basis is when they go to the sales, they lose 20 to 30 kilos. Yeah. So it's a fine art, but getting enough condition on, keeping knees and joints and x-rays, which is a major issue, x-rays, in this day and age. So, you know, it's not an easy one to nut out sometimes and get it right.
What about the horse background? How did that come about?
Parents were, fortunate enough to let me to be able to ride horses. Enjoyed doing a little bit of one-day eventing, and funnily enough, my first boss was Sir Peter Bella. Worked for Pentyre stud when I was 15 years old, so been working ever since.
So that was basically your introduction to what you're doing now?
Yes, it was, yes.
Yeah. Did you sort of feel at the time this is something I want to do with my career?
Well, I was never going to make a jockey. So the natural progression for me was either to do the broodmare side of it, which I felt was probably a little bit slow for what my sort of speed of life probably is, and I really enjoyed doing the yearlings, the conditioning of animals, and that probably more fascinated me, and it was more a role that I could make a career out of, I thought.
Just explain your holistic approach to it.
Wow, yeah, natural remedies. I find that there's so many different, there is something for everything. I mean, whether it's the mind, the emotion, the physicality.
What are the benefits that you've seen?
I have had good results with X-ray. Like it's amazing, young horses at 8 or 9 months old showing early signs of arthritis. And I have a particular brew there, which is called vermiculite, and it's silica from a stone. And the success rate we've had on that in over a very short period is sort of, we've had sort of 40 to 50% improvement within a 3-month period. So like you might X-ray in August and you re-go again in early December. So it's been that sort of side of it, parasitises, there's a brew for everything.
So what led you to down that path?
I think there's always, an alternative. And as I say, Waikato Equine and Ella Jorgensen's basically my fantastic, and we've worked well together, and he realises what I'm about a little bit, and what led me to it, probably results as well. So, you can have knees and joints, but there's mind and emotion and, swellings, and so absolutely I'll call a vet when I need it, but, we do a lot of on-hand healing.
Because that's one of the things that you are best known for, isn't it? Is for your leading.
Yeah, I suppose being energetic as well, and I mean, like you lead your first one or your last horse out for the day, like the first horse. And I really enjoy it, and I've taught a lot of people how to show a horse, and it's so important.
So where did you learn from? Who
well, funnily enough, who was the master? Sir Patrick. And I think I spent about 15 minutes with him when I was about 15 years old. And I took it on board, and also I think with observation, I'm a huge one on observation, whether horse have eaten or just everything I observe all the time, and observation on what looks good and what doesn't look good.
And for you leading a horse, it's not just about the horse's appearance as well, it's a little bit about your get-up.
Yeah, I suppose I can remember one person asked me, and he owns a stud, and he said, "Why don't you wear a uniform?" And I thought, well, I don't know, because I think I'd rather wear something else, And it is a little bit of the point of difference. I think also too, otherwise, I've done it, I like it, and I'm my own boss, so I can hopefully wear what I, choose to, I guess.
What are those results that sort of give you the most satisfaction?
From the sales, look, the results are fantastic, and they're fantastic to have. Like, we ended up 5th on average at the Premier this season, which was fantastic. We had the nice horses as well, and good luck to the people that have paid the money, and I hope they go on and be really successful on the racetrack. Like, we've been leading Bender at the Premier on average. One season we averaged 308,000. We've had second top prize filly, which turned out was bought by Gary Chiddick and turned out to be Di. And like she was, as I said, second top prize filly, but she produced it on the track. The other horse I had the third top prize at the Premier, a colt called High C, Bart Cummings called him, and he was third top prize, and he went on to be a Group 2 winner. So it's fantastic when people pay the money and get the result as well at that top end.
The 2015 sale was just one of the box for you.
Fantastic. Look, they were sound and solid results at the time for the horses, but it's been quite humbling, I think, actually, just to go and watch them and the feedback, and it's been fantastic for New Zealand Bloodstock sales, to have those horses, but on a personal level for Phoenix Park as well. Montoya's Secret, winning a Group 1 race over in Australia and having Nurse's Kitchen, which was in the Phoenix Park draft but was withdrawn, Quinellering, it was just amazing. You know, it was something that I suppose that people only dream of, I guess. Samara Dancer, I mean, winning a Group 2 two-year-old race over in Australia, I mean, like horses out of New Zealand traditionally just do not do that. Gold Rush, I mean, that certainly helped things out with the Matamata Breeders' Stakes as well. And two very good fillies also, you know, in Storytime and Rosa Carolina. Yeah. So, and they both look on like horses that are going to go forward and probably have black types in them.
So Janine, we're out here with your cattle, and you probably enjoy it, mate.
Oh, well, they are my recreation actually, Aidan, and that I sort of, obviously you need them for the property and, you know, keeping good pasture and that, but it's probably, to be fair, it is a bit of a sideline business. But one thing I have learned, that cattle sales are really easy to top. You know, all you got to do is feed them. You don't need to x-ray them or anything like that. So they are a tool, but they are also probably, you know, a working business, and they are a bit of recreation as well.
It's not just about sort of selling them. They've got a core role here on your horse farm, don't they?
Well, they do. I mean, it's pasture, you know, cleaning the pasture up. I mean, we get a good cross-section over with the pasture, like, you know, I'm a great planter of chicory and your plantains, your dandelions, probably all people want to spray out, but it's interesting, as I was saying with observation earlier, on what horses and animals actually go for. I use organic fertilisers. I put very minimal spray. I think I've sprayed once for buttercup, but that was a necessary evil. Yeah. I mean, I like green pastures, not yellow pastures. Yeah, yeah. And that's so I keep the sprays to a very, very minimal. And I do find that horses' joints, you know, with all those things in place, with, you know, your homeopathy, your organic fertilisers, they seem to, you know, x-ray up reasonably well.
The other thing that we've sort of noticed, you're passionate about this. You absolutely love what you do, don't you?
I'd have to say I probably do. Look, it's a good balance. I mean, it's a huge energy you put into it, and I mean, one thing I've learnt sort of at night is sort of, if your mind's thinking, I go, well, I can't change it today, so go to sleep and worry about it tomorrow, or deal with it tomorrow. But you're right, I am passionate about it. You know, I'm rapt to have a beautiful farm like this. I put a lot of energy into it, thought on trees growing, you know, trying to grow cattle, and most importantly, obviously, you know, the horses is a key focal in this place.
You must be extremely proud of what you've achieved.
Yeah, I would have to say yes, I am. Look, I mean, it's and look. It's incredible the people that have, you know, been the support behind as well. I mean, if you haven't got your good owners or, you know, been privileged to have the good horses, I mean, it makes it a lot easier, I think, to achieve what you actually want to in the sale ring, on the racetrack, and in the paddock.
If you want a good New Zealand breeding story, this is most definitely it. Meet Gingernuts.
Basically, we wanted to mate a mare that physically suited a stallion, and we had shares in Autridge, and Double L was a nice medium-sized mare, and at the time we had a couple more noms to fill, and we thought she suited the bill. We remember foaling him down and doing the initial handling, weaning him, and then onto the weaning prep. and he was a lovely horse. He had a great temperament. He was just an unassuming, medium-sized chestnut horse who was correct, and there was nothing that really stood out about him, apart from the fact he had a really, really great nature, great to work with. At the time, Autridge was probably, he hadn't had Turn Me Loose. He'd had a couple of Greater Stakes winners, but he wasn't really firing at that stage. So we'd sold a few yearlings, and we decided to take a few to the weanling sales, and just to get them out there. I guess when you've got, when you're trying to make a stallion, I guess you have to get them to the sales, get them sold, and get them out there and onto the track. So we thought he would just be a nice trade horse. We didn't think there was probably a huge amount of money in him as a yearling, so we thought the May sale was a good option.
First saw him at Karaka at the weanling sale. He was late in the sale and probably slipped through the cracks, to be honest, but no, he was a colt that had good legs, he was good size, had really good movement.
First impression, he was just a nice, tidy little weanling, woolly little fella, but he had a bit of quality about him.
We weren't overly sure if we had him sold. We knew Phill Cataldo quite liked him.
Bill did the bidding, and we sort of couldn't believe it when it stopped at 5,000, and then he was knocked down to us.
We were pretty happy with that at the time. Thinking back, maybe should have been a little more, but Phil's a good judge, and obviously brought him for Bill Thurlow to trade on, and it turns out he is a good judge, Phill.
After we bought him, he went back to Bill's farm. Bill's got a great farm in the Taranaki in Waverley.
Just come home and they go out there in that big paddock out there and good grass out in the centre of the track, and they're fed every day, and they're just left there to grow really, and then we bring them in around about Christmas and start to do a bit with them and break them in. We pretty much geld them all. We've got, when we buy them, we buy fillies as well, and to us, you know, we're only a little small stable here, and it's just a nuisance having colts around. He was good. He was really no different to any other horse. His temperament was fine.
It was always his intention to put him back through the ready to run sale, and Bill will admit himself he sort of didn't really set the world on fire in training.
He prepared reasonably well for the breeze ups. He was, as I say, was really no different to any other horse. He didn't stand out as being a standout horse, but he was always a nice, tidy horse, and he just got through his work as they do. His breeze up was a bit ordinary. On the day, he probably didn't breeze up as well as his mate, and his mate's done nothing, so that's the fate of racing. Jamie Richards had been and seen him, and Jamie really obviously liked him, and he'd been back a couple of times.
I think it could have even been the Sunday after Risque won the Guineas actually. So we went around and did the legwork, and you know, he stood out as a good physical sort of horse. His breeze up wasn't flash, but as we've said before, Dave was sort of looking to put a syndicate together to buy a reasonably cheap horse, and we had to forgive something.
And then he brought Mr. Ellis back to look at him.
Mark Walker and Jamie went and looked at all the horses in the breeze ups, and we had a short list, and Jamie and I went and had a look at him at Karaka.
He wasn't an over popular horse.
Well, he's a little bit light in condition, a little bit immature.
I think if I recall, I think maybe Bjorn Baker could have been the underbidder on the horse at the time, but he was a little bit slow getting away, and then he just got to his level and sold.
And we're lucky enough to buy him for $42,500.
Yeah, we were very happy with it. We hadn't paid, as say, we bought him for $5,000 as a weanling, and we'd bought him to turn over. He obviously wasn't going to go to a yearling sale. We could have gone the next step. If he'd been a lot cheaper, we may have kept him and said, well, we're going to take him and trial him. But it's a blessing really what's happened, because if he'd gone to the trial market and ended up in maybe Singapore or Hong Kong or something, I don't think the horse would have ever found his true potential.
He was probably still quite babyish when he was a 2-year-old. We thought that he had plenty of room for improvement, and you know, when he came back to the farm, he did particularly well at the Akau stud, and really went to the next level, and he was gelded already, which was a help. And when we put him into work, he really started to flourish.
Oh, he was definitely a nice horse. Wasn't overly big or strong, but great horse to have anything to do with. He was a little gentleman and obliging, and you know, we liked him from day one.
Obviously, we really liked him as a 2-year-old, and he ran second behind Hall of Fame at Hastings, and then came out and won his next start well.
He was always okay, quite nice. We always thought, well, got a horse here that can win a couple of races.
Got held up with injury in the spring of his 3-year-old year, and towards Christmas, we were sort of just not really sure where we were, but he'd always been a horse that looked like he was going to appreciate the blinkers going on, because he got to the front and pulled up quite a few times. So we always liked him all the way through, but sort of when we got to Christmas at 3, we were sort of looking for a couple of things to really switch him on.
He was a horse that done everything good, you know. He let us down a couple of times at the races. He was a bit green, needed a bit extra room, found the line, but you know, he won at Akau, and we thought, well, let's take the plunge and put him in the Avondale Guineas. And we sort of looked up his pedigree. He was out of a generous mare, so when it was a little bit wet, we said, well, he should stay and he should handle it.
And tell me about when you realised that you really had a serious horse on your hands.
Well, it was probably halfway up the straight in the Avondale Guineas.
Then came Camino Rocoso, further out Sacred Elixir's out into the clear. Down to the 200 they come. It's Charles Road, Redeem the Dream, Mongolian Wolf running on, Gingernuts along the inside. At the 150, Redeem the Dream and Charles Road, and Gingernuts is coming after them with Mongolian Wolf. Gingernuts is going to win the Avondale Guineas.
Missed a jump from the outside barrier, followed them around. Actually at the 600 I didn't know where to look, but he just changed gear and just run to the line, and you know, from that day on, you know, we had to look at him a different way, and he continued to improve.
Shut the gate in the Derby! Gingernuts has dunked them in the Derby!
Like the Avondale Guineas win was really quite spectacular coming from where he did. Obviously to win a Derby in New Zealand is great, but his Rosehill Guineas win as well, coming from back in the field and swooping around them and winning like he did, they were 3 outstanding performances, I thought, the whole 3 of them.
Gingernuts, 150 to go. He's way out in front of Infant Sosibon fighting out the minors. Gingernuts is getting tired, but he's got the Rosehill Guineas won. It's Gingernuts by 2 lengths.
The whole family's enjoyed following him, and it's been an interesting following him really, because to start with, his first couple of runs were just runs, and and then you watch them and then they improve, and for where he come from and what he's done, it's been just a massive ride really for him to get there.
Probably the most important thing about him is his temperament. Very laid back sort of horse, which probably makes him such a good staying sort of horse.
He's a pet. He's very obliging, very kind, and loves any attention he gets.
He's a really happy horse. He's quite a character, and he's just got genuine ability and loves competing.
He's done nothing but improve. He's been genuine the whole way, and that you don't mind being around him. So it's just one of those horses that everybody likes.
So he's got a lot of class, that's for sure. Great turn of foot, a brilliant brain, which obviously helps, especially when horses have got to travel. Great will to win, big heart. He ticks all the boxes, and as I say, it's just been a really great ride watching him go from strength to strength.
So we sold him in May, and we sold the mare at the August sale at Karaka, and it was just, we were going through a bit of a transitional period. We had a couple of stallions, Chinese Dragon and Nom de Jour, and they weren't really firing, so we were having a bit of a restructure, and we decided that we needed to cull our mares back a little bit. And she wasn't, to be fair, she wasn't leaving a really consistent type. We wanted to be selling, our main income is yearling sales, so we need to be selling at quite a high standard there, and she wasn't quite cutting the mustard. So commercially and in a business sense, we sold her based on that. And we'd done a little bit of research on the first 2 foals, Runway and the Alamosa, and they thought they'd win races, but nothing special. So we weren't to know, and certainly looking at him as a weanling, we didn't think that this could be produced. But like everyone knows this game, anything can happen. So it was just one of those business decisions, and we've had to live with it. But we do have a half share and a half sister, and another mare from the same branch of the family, so it's not all lost. The Derby was great, but that was when it all sunk in, and I thought, geez, I've made a mistake here, because Dad was known as a great hoarder of mares, and he had a lot of sentimental value to all his mares. He loved them all, so he hated parting with mares. So he was ill at the time, and so I thought I was doing the right thing. But so the Derby was a bit of a reality check. But you know, when I thought about it, this is part of the game, and we're still a breeder of Gingernuts. And Chris, I met him recently, who brought Double L. He's a nice guy, and it's great that someone else can have a bit of success as well. So that's why I'm looking at it.
Gingernuts added to his Group 1 haul earlier this year with a win in the Windsor Park Plate, and there were high hopes for him heading into the Emirates Stakes at Flemington, but he faltered on the way to the start and fractured his near forepastern. He has since had 4 screws inserted into his leg and has come through the surgery well. We wish Jerry and his connections well for a full and speedy recovery. In Kiwi Bred news this week, Waikato stud Savabeel completed a memorable double following his son Embellish's win in the Group 1 Albasti Equal World New Zealand 2000 Guineas when Hasahalo won the Group 1 Gavel House 1000 Guineas at Riccarton on Saturday. Bred by Waikato stud and Isabel O'Shea, Hasahalo is out of the Encosted Lago mare Halloween, an $11,000 purchase out of the 2013 New Zealand Bloodstock broodmare sale for Waikato stud, who sold Hasahalo to Albert Bosma's Go Racing at last year's New Zealand Bloodstock Premier Yearling sale for $110,000. The Stephen McKee trained Hasahalo was ridden by Sam Spratt, who also guided the Andrew Campbell trained Tavistock gelding Gobstopper to success in the Group 3 Christchurch Casino New Zealand Cup. Bred by Tommy Heppenstall along with Campbell, Tom Pivac, John and Chris Barnio, David Allison and David Platt, Gobstopper is out of the Zabeel mare Bag of Lollies, also the dam of the Tavistock Hong Kong Derby winner Werther. Werther made it a memorable double for those same breeders when he won the Jockey Club Cup in Hong Kong on Sunday night. Ocean Emperor has become Zabeel's latest group winner, claiming the Group 2 Gartshaw Tauranga Classic on Saturday. Bred by Gary Chittick out of the Group 3 winning Pinsmere Tootsie, Ocean Emperor was knocked down to Matamata trainer Gary Hennessy for $450,000 through the Waikato stud draft at the 2013 New Zealand Bloodstock Premier Yearling sale at Karaka. New Zealand Oaks winner Fanatic continued her winning ways in the listed Sandown Cup on Saturday. Bred and raced by Sean Kiernan, Fanatic is by the 2009 Melbourne Cup winner Shocking and out of the winning Groom Dancer mare Complete class. Fanatic was born and raised at Curramore, whose New Zealand Bloodstock Premier Yearling sale graduate Longleaf added to his stallion credentials with a win in the listed Merson Cooper Stakes at Sandown. Sold to a Coolmore syndicate that includes Sir Peter Vella for $750,000, Fastnet Rock colt Longleaf will now target the Karaka Million, according to co-trainer David Hayes. Precocious youngster El Hassar turned Saturday's listed Barneswood Farm Welcome Stakes at Riccarton into a procession. By Exceed and Excel out of Oasis Rose, El Hassar is Karaka Million bound and is also in consideration for the Golden Slipper. Bred by Sir Patrick and Justine Lady Hogan, along with Jean Choi, El Hassar was a $625,000 purchase for Te Akau Racing's David Ellis from the Cambridge Stud Draft at Karaka this year.
That's it for this season of Kiwi Bred. We hope you've enjoyed getting to know all the characters, both human and equine, involved in the New Zealand breeding industry. We'll join you early next year for the road to Karaka.